a particular problem that forms. So we're going to get into that. But generally speaking, when we talk about pipelines, these are the 4 things that you need to know at all times. And here's a shocker for you. If I call the guys in the bottom of the sales category, almost none of them can even give me 1.
Really? Meaning their number?
Meaning their number.
Okay.
So the gentleman I was speaking with just now did not know any of these. Okay. Now, what do you think happens when I call the top earners? They can tell me how many they got, how many they got coming, what their names are, how long it's been there, when the last time they talked. They can tell me all the things. And once again, top earners, not top earners. You can't be a top earner and not know your pipeline. Like, you just can't. I don't care what anybody says. You can't. You may be better than average, but you can't be top without tracking. You just can't. And what you're trying to find out when you're doing this is these 2 simple things. If it's good and everything's on point, great, keep it up, do the same work. If it's weak, do the math, find the problem. Okay? So let's talk about the problem of low inspections. If you have low inspections, I'm going to tell you right now, the only reason you have low inspections, you're not knocking on doors. Point blank, period, end of story. If someone doesn't have inspections, they're not knocking on doors. Like, there is no other answer. I've had guys go, I've been telling them for like a month or whatever, you're not, and then they finally admit it. So you've been, yeah, I know I'm right. Like, there's only one answer. Like, there's literally only one answer. If you don't have inspections, you're not knocking doors, period. Okay? So, and it's kind of, we went over this already though, right? But if you're doing 50 doors a day, you should have 10 conversations. If you're going to a neighborhood and you're not having 10 conversations, then you're going at the wrong time or you're in the wrong neighborhood. So let's clarify what I mean by conversations. A conversation is you are having an engagement of talk with the homeowner. Okay? So if they're a renter, it's not a conversation. If you're talking to the kid or the mom or dad are in town visiting, it's not a conversation. If they open the door and go, not interested, and shut the door in your face, it's not a conversation. But let's say if they are the homeowner and you say, hey, how you doing? I'm Marcus. I'm here doing roof inspections. No, I'm good. I appreciate it. And then shut the door in your face. They listened to you. You just sucked. Okay? So if they shut the door in your face straight away, not a conversation. That's not your fault. There's nothing you can do in there. But if they let you say something before they gave you an answer, that's a conversation. So if you knock 50 doors, you should have 10 conversations. So what do I mean by wrong times? I'm going to give you the power hours. The first available power hour, but it's not the best, is 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. That's your lunchtime. So that's when you're going to go to the community that is either a good retirement community, because that's when they prefer to be talked to, or you're going to go to a wealthy community where they have a single income, meaning one of the spouses is more than likely at home during the day. And the reason you want to go at that time is because, well, they got all the kids taken to school. Now there's the lull in between where they're doing their things before they go pick up the kids again. Okay? The next power hour and the best power hour is between 4:30 to 8. Now, me personally, I would say don't be knocking on people's door after 8 o'clock. So even if it is still daylight outside, just me personally, I'm not going to talk to someone knocking on my door after 8 o'clock. I'm just not going to do it. I don't even like when my Amazon packages show up later, right? So yeah, I'm the old grumpy man. Shut up. My wife says that. So we got a corner lot, right? And I am the old grumpy man. So the bus stop just happens to be our corner. And every morning I'm like, don't you step on my grass. Get off my grass. Like, she's just like, you are the old grumpy turd, aren't you? I'm like, yeah, I guess I kind of am. I hate it, but whatever. Like, I see myself saying all the things my dad saw. Now I got kids saying, you remind me of my dad. Shut up. Dang it, it's true. So there's a couple of reasons why, if you're low on inspections, other than knocking doors that maybe is an issue, but generally speaking, it's going to be because you're not knocking doors. Okay. They don't feel you're better than the other guy. Okay. So let's say if you're knocking in a storm area, kind of like we talked about before, right? So if you're knocking in a storm area, you could be knocking on doors and not getting anywhere. It's because something you're doing in the way you're presenting yourself, they are more confident in the other guy, right? And the bigger one, you're out knocking doors, but you're making it a money problem. Now, here's what I mean about that. So, and this didn't occur to me until I got my first $20,000 commission check for a 2-week period. So if you get a $20,000 commission check for a 2-week period, like you're feeling pretty good. Like it was this day that I had some time, I was going to go knocking. But if I got someone spit in my face or told me, bro, I didn't care. Like I was about to have a killer date night and no one, you couldn't bring me down. You could not have brought me down this day. And yet for some reason, nobody told me no. Like I couldn't make anybody tell me no. They basically opened the door and were like, my God, would you look at my roof, please and thank you. Like I almost did. I'm like, what is going on? So I sold, I don't say I can't remember. I want to say I sold like 4 or 5 that day. And I'm driving back home for date night and I'm like, what happened today? And then it occurred to me, it's like, oh, I legit did not give 2 squirts about what anybody said. So the way I approached the door was completely different than how and mind you, obviously I'd made 20 grand in 2 weeks. So I'd been approaching the door pretty good already. But when I knocked on that door and I didn't care whatsoever about what happened, it changed that immediate reaction between me and the homeowner. The before words were even spoken. So what I'm telling you, when you go knocking doors, you have to 100% shut down any care of what happens. And it's really hard to do. It's really easy when you're making a big fat stack of cash. And then from then on, even when I had made a big fat stack of cash, like that had been put so real into me. And I'm telling you guys right now, like literally, that took me from having to knock 50 doors. I have to have one conversation. One conversation, and I'm getting a sale. Period. And that is what changed. So when I tell guys, you can say the best things, you can do the best things, that very initial just aura of what you're giving off is what changes the game. Like I told you, the guys we saw at lunch today, that's that big roofing crew, like you saw, they were all like, well, built like me, right? Just kind of, okay, I'm yeah, right? Yeah, they all had, only what, 30, 40 pounds on me, right? So, like, what's your image you're giving off? And if you're sitting there thinking, man, I gotta get this sell. I really need this commission check. And what, like,
they smell it.
It comes off. It just does, man. It just does. Okay. So low authorizations. So let's say you're having a lot of inspections, but your authorizations are low. So I mean, you're clearly out knocking doors, but this is where it kind of hurts to be you, right? Because this is clearly a you problem. Now, this right here, if you legitimately have good inspections, like if that inspection count's always high, you're always going out knocking doors, but your authorizations are low, this is right here where guys stop tracking. And there's only one reason you stop tracking. Because the results hurt your feelings. Like, there's a reason that there's not one sport that exists. I don't know, maybe nowadays there's plenty of sports that don't have this, but there's a reason there's a scoreboard. There's winners and there's losers. And you need to know where you're at. If I'm a quarterback or a head coach and I'm down by a touchdown in the first quarter, I'm going to make completely different actions than if it's fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, and I'm down by a touchdown. I'm going to have completely different things that I do. You need to track to know what you need. This is where most guys will stop tracking, and especially in the beginning. Because in the beginning, this is not going to be good. You're going to have a lot of inspections with not a lot of authorizations for what it should be. What you need to do is stay focused on it, do the math, and fix the problem. Because would you rather have a bad couple of days figuring out what you're doing wrong, or would you rather just always have bad? Once again, top earners, they had bad. Trust me, there was a time where this was bad for me. I had to figure it out. And these are things I went to look at. Okay. Big one. And this is the one where the large majority of guys fail. And this is where I excel. So I came from the retail world. And to me, like I've always been in commodity selling, right? So I always pretty much sold the same thing as the other guy. So I knew that my pitch had to be good. So just like we went over, first thing we went over today was going over the pitch. Most guys come down and they don't have the pitch. Their pitch is, hey, let's file this claim. They never show pictures. Or like I told you, so the guy who freaking tied my record from my training and sold very first day out, he was better than the other guys. He had a pitch, they didn't, right? So guys will come down, and some guys actually do this really well in the beginning, but then, like I said, success is a bad teacher, right? They start thinking, oh, people just love me. It's like, no, they love what you were doing. So if you're low on authorizations, first thing you need to ask yourself, am I actually presenting well when I come down? Am I pulling the homeowner aside? Are we sitting down at the coffee table? Am I showing them my pictures, or am I just going to go, hey, took some pictures. You want to sign this paper? So like, are you actually presenting a pitch? That's going to be step number one, where I would say probably at least 70% of guys who are weak on authorizations, that's the spot where they're weak, typically speaking. Okay. Another one, you don't know why they're saying no. So if a homeowner's not saying no, or if a homeowner is saying no, rather, well, one, that's good because it means you asked, right? If they told you no, they told you no to a question, which means you asked. So great job. You did better than the majority of salespeople. Okay. But if you don't know why they're telling you no, you're not listening to the homeowner. It probably means you're just so scared about what to do and what to say next that you're not actually hearing them. Okay. And this will be a question that I'll ask you, be like, well, why'd they tell you no? And I can hear when I'm giving what they assume. Okay. Next, what damage are you finding in the area you're at? Like, are you an area that just doesn't have a lot of damage? Like, did you just go do 5 inspections in the same neighborhood and have no damage and then just continue to inspect? Like, let's go to a different neighborhood, right? So with that being said, just for general rules, if you're in a neighborhood, you get on 3 roofs and you haven't found any damage, go to another neighborhood. But what you don't do is get on one roof, no damage, and leave the neighborhood. Like I've literally been on one roof, completely destroyed, and then literally got on the roof next door and there was like nothing wrong with it. So you do need to get on 3. But if you go get on number 4 and 5 in the neighborhood, all right, that's on you at that point. Okay. So the next part on your authorizations, so if you've had a lot of inspections, is your inspection problem on your doors or is it on your leads? So what do I mean by that? We got a guy in one of our states who on his leads has an 87% close rate. Now, just to let you know, that's pretty freaking good. As company and average, we're generally speaking between 25 and 30. He's at 87. On the flip side, he could knock a door to save his dadgum life. And then we got a guy in Kansas who couldn't close a lead if you threaten him with a gun, but if he knocks on a door, you'll give him your brand new puppy, right? The only difference is their mindset on it. So that's something that you do need to try. Again, that's lower on the list, but do you have a lead problem? Do you have a door knock problem? because sometimes you may find that you have an area in one or the other, okay? You don't know the pitch, meaning you don't know what you're looking at, so you're not making strong recommendations. Someone's not going to sign an authorization to make a claim if you say, hey, I think insurance will buy this. Okay. What are your recommendations? Are your recommendations strong? Are you doing weak inspections? Are you shortcutting the pitch? Are you making professional suggestions? Or are you guessing? So these are kind of just different versions of that, but it all pretty much says the same thing. Make sense? So those are the questions you need to ask yourself if you got low authorizations. Let's say if you got low scopes. And like I said, this is where a large majority of guys get ghosted. Okay. So if you're getting ghosted, I guarantee you it's almost always in this step. And as you can see here, problem number one, and we already talked about it earlier, you're not letting them know what happens next after that adjuster appointment. You're letting them get that big, scary piece of paperwork, and you're assuming they know what you know, which they definitely don't know what you know. And they're seeing that scary paperwork as in a lot of money out of their pocket, and they're not cool with it. Next, you're not following up. As we talked about before, once again, you're telling them what you're doing next and your follow-up are both crucial, okay? And if you're following up every 48 hours, like they know you're good, they're gonna have a lot less hesitancy on giving you the scope. Or, and this is less common, because typically if you got to this point, this isn't the case, but this will be the last one. They have confidence in the insurance company, but not you. So in other words, probably on the day you made your pitch, you talked about damage, 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 damage. So Mother Nature and insurance are the heroes. Why do they need you? So typically speaking, if you were doing these two, you're probably not the kind of guy that did that. So that's why it's a little bit lower on the totem pole. But those are generally the misses for your scope. So pretty easy fixes. Just need to ask yourself, which one are you doing? Low contracts. So what this means is you've sat down with homeowners, you've presented, a buying opportunity where money needs to be exchanged, and they're telling you no. Okay. The biggest one right off the bat is you did not give them 3 options. Point blank, period, end of story. So the majority of this we're going to say is an insurance contract. Okay. What I tell guys all the time, or I'll hear, hey, I don't know how to give 3 options. All insurance company bought is the roof, and the roof is all they need. With all the communication that you've done, you should know 3 options that the homeowner would pick. Okay. So give you a couple different scenarios, what I mean, and what an option sheet looks like. You guys saw how big and scary the paperwork is for the insurance company, right? What most guys will do is they'll sit down, they'll explain it like, all right, so you got to take the square root of this and the triangulated version of the hypothesis, and then and it's like half hour later. Does that make sense? And the homeowner's like, no, that does not make sense whatsoever. Versus showing them the scope, kind of sort of brushing over it, pushing it aside, and then I have 3 simple options. Option 1, 2, and 3. And this is your out-of-pocket expense. Okay. Now, making it simple is step number 1. Step number 2 is giving them the 3 options. And I'll have guys, once again, like I said, that'll go, well, hey, all they're doing is buying the roof. What options am I going to give them? Cool. Option 1, here's the roof, putting it back to just how it is now, just a roof. Or if you remember, option number 2, remember how we talked about on that first day, you don't really have any venting over that one section of the house? Option 2, we could upgrade your venting, okay? Or option 3, I can give you upgraded venting and a class 4 shingle, which actually gives you a warranty against hail and saves you money on your insurance premiums.
It does save money.
Mm-hmm. on some insurance companies. Not all, but some. Okay? So that's a scenario of how you can present three different options. Now, and then we go, well, they're going to pick the cheapest one. Cool. But by giving them the other options, you guaranteed that they take the cheap one. And by giving them options, they feel like they have options. If you present a homeowner with only one way to go, they instinctively feel, I can get a better deal. Well, you're presenting them the deals. So they're going to pick the deal that they, and here's what's amazing. Not only did I immediately start closing more, I almost always got an upgrade. They almost always got option 2 or 3. Almost always. So I went from, if I presented one option, they want to negotiate and maybe didn't sign, to now I presented 3 options. Now they're definitely going to sign. And there's a video on this deeper, kind of going a lot deeper into this on the Road to 6 Figures. So I'm not going to go over much of it now, but you're going to see that 3 options video and it's going to make a lot of sense. But do not skip giving 3 options. Even if you know for a fact this is what they're going to pick, cool. Then give them what is 2 other viable options, even if, so like in that scenario right there, and I've done this a million times, let's say company USAA, for example, they do not give a discount for class 4 shingles. I'll do the exact same way you just saw me do it. Then I'll also go, but look, on the class 4, USAA doesn't actually offer discounts. So in my opinion, I wouldn't go this route. It's really option 1 or 2. If you go option 3, just my opinion, it's not going to save you. And you're being honest with them.
How do you find that out? Do they call?
You just know over time. Okay. Yeah. I could sit here and give you a list of them now, but that's always going to change. So like State Farm is one that offers it, but they just changed like 3 months ago what you have to do to get that. So like it's always changing. So that's something that you got to have your ear to the ground. And I haven't had my ear to the ground in that level. I probably don't know it. You know, it's probably not like I knew it 9 months ago or 10 months ago or however heck long it's been. Okay. So next, you're trying to rush the close. So guys will go in and just go, hey, here's all the things, here's all the options, which way do you want to go? Versus what you need to do is you need to start with, hey, look, I know we've kind of talked about a lot of this before, and I just want to reiterate, this is a lot of money, even if the insurance pay for it. I just want to reiterate what you're getting. So if you remember, these are what your roof does and doesn't have. We're going to be doing these things, blah, blah. So you kind of talk about the roof a little bit, and you continually say, you probably remember this, but it just makes me feel better. Because guess what? They actually don't remember. And if you just go in and immediately just start talking straight numbers, like they have forgotten the value that you once gave them. When you remind them, cool beans, no big deal. So you shouldn't be selling on contract day. You should just be throwing down some reminders. And then when you remind them about their venting situation they have, knowing that you're about to present to them a venting option. Make sense? So next one, and this is a pretty big one. They don't believe you. Okay? But the reason they don't believe you is if you didn't offer them 3 options, it's harder for them instinctively to believe you. If you haven't done your follow-up, they're going to have a hard time believing you. If you've skipped any of the steps, they're going to have a hard time believing you. Okay? So this one's kind of hard it takes some deep diving to figure out if that's the case, but basically if you're skipping steps, they don't believe you. So we've given you a little process. Are you doing the process? And whatever number this is, a big one, you didn't sell them on day 1. So generally speaking, when I went into a contract, almost always, if I was talking to my manager at the time, he'd be like, yeah, I'm going to go contract such and such, and they're either going to pick this or this. Versus what I hear a lot of the times, I'm going to go try to contract them today. You should know that when you go in there, they are signing with you. You just don't know which option they're picking. So if you're going in hoping that you can close them, that means that you probably are well aware of an objection that you haven't handled up front because you're afraid that you would have lost it and never got to this point, versus having it addressed it properly when you first came across it. Don't ever wait on bad news. A big thing that sales guys get wrong all the time is they hang around on bad news. Like, just eat it. How do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. Like, don't sit there and try to think about, all right, how can I eat this all in one second to make it suck less? You don't. Shut up, eat it, move on. Okay. Another one, you didn't make it easy. You didn't tell them what was coming next. You didn't continue the follow-up. You didn't give them options. Basically, all of these things. You haven't done those things. And then lastly, you did not lead them. Okay? If throughout the whole process, you're still asking, hey, can I meet you for this? Can we no, we're doing this. Like, you need to lead them. A coach doesn't ask you what play you want to run. He tells you what play you're going to run. So, lastly, do the math. What I love about it, the math is no respecter of persons. The numbers are the numbers. Wherever you're weak at is where you're weak at. Don't like try to do it in a certain way to make you feel good. Like, the problem is the problem. Avoid today's pain tomorrow. At some point, you're going to have to face it. Don't keep avoiding it. You're going to have to face it. So just buck up, shut up. Make sense? Anybody got any questions? Nope. All follow me? All right. So here's one for you guys, is scheduling. Now, this is kind of a philosophy thing. Some guys may believe in scheduling. Some guys may not believe in scheduling. Some guys may not see the value in it. My job and goal is at the end of this for you to see the value in it. So how many of you, and by the way, what I mean by schedule is written down. And in my opinion, if your schedule doesn't also have written down timeframes for personal life in those days, you don't have a schedule. So a schedule needs to contain more than just what you're doing for work. As men, something we do incorrectly all the time, in my opinion, is we only worry about being structured at work versus being structured everywhere. And if you do that, you will take your work home with you and you can't just set it aside. The one thing that I am very good at least when I'm done with work, I am done with work. And I can do that because I have everything very regimented. So let's just say this person here is a CEO of a very to-do company. This person makes millions of dollars, makes very large decisions. Do you think this person has a schedule? Do you also think that not only do they have a schedule, they probably pay somebody like $100,000 a year just to maintain their schedule? So a big part of schedules, have you guys ever heard be, do, have? Be, do, have. So most people think that you have to do it before you can have it. That's not the case. You can't wait till you have $1 million and get to the point where you have to pay someone a lot of money to make a schedule. Well, if that's how you think, you're never going to get to that point. So you have to start doing what that person does to have what that person has. We always think about it backwards. We always think, all right, so I'll make a schedule when I become successful. You're not going to get successful if you don't make a schedule. Okay? So it's all about the RGA, baby. As much as I absolutely despise and loathe and hate acronyms, this is the one I use. Okay? And it stands for revenue generating activity. Or you could say action, whichever you want to say, they both fit. But the key component is activity. Much like we talked about with goal setting, it is not result. You don't control results. You control your actions. Okay? And every day, bare minimum 40% of your time needs to be spent in revenue generating activities. Bare minimum. I don't care how busy you are, how much you got going. If you don't spend time developing new business, your pocket's going to get empty. There is never a point, and how many of you guys have heard this? Man, I ain't got time today. I just got too much to do. I got too much to catch up on. I can't get to that today. How many of you guys have said these words yourself? I definitely have. Like, I just got so much going on. I don't care what's going on. Nothing, absolutely nothing takes away from your 40% of revenue generating activity. Now, the flip side of that, when you're very first starting out, in other words, like Thursday, Friday for you guys, it's 100% of what you're doing. Because guess what? You don't have any maintenance items yet. If you go, oh, Marcus, I got to work on my follow-ups. What are you following up on exactly? You got nothing. So this is minimum, not period. Okay. So what are some revenue generating activities? Knocking is a revenue generating activity. Inspections are revenue generating activities. Leads. Here's a big one that a lot of people don't realize. Education or education of yesterday's issues. So in other words, education. How many of you realize by growing knowledge of some form, personal or business, that actually creates new revenue? Most people don't realize that, but it does. Especially if you fix an issue that you're continually having. Like, oh, I'm not going to have that issue anymore, so I'm going to make more money now. Okay? Education makes you money. There's a guy who I like to follow, whether you guys have heard of him or not, Alex Hormozi. Any of you guys heard of him? You've heard of him? So he'll tell you every day that you don't make $1 billion, you're losing $1 billion. So pay down your ignorance. He said the only thing that keeps you from making $1 billion, if you're not making $1 billion now, the only thing that keeps you from making $1 billion is the education of what it takes to make $1 billion. So getting agents, that's way down the line, but that is one, and getting realtors. I'm not even going to talk much about that. We'll go into that stuff later on. And the reason I say that, some guys will go, oh, I'm going to go get agents and realtors. Go knock first. This is something you're already killing the game. You want to add to. You got to start with knocking. Okay. So knocking is definitely the number one for sure. But if in your first few months, you're going, you know what? I'm going to go get some agents around 4 to 5. Really? You're going to waste the best time to go knocking on doors to talk to an agent who, even if you do win, will probably take you 3 months before you ever see fruit of that labor, versus that door knock will get you money right now today. So
what's the difference between an agent and a realtor?
Oh, agent as in not real estate agent, insurance agent. So insurance agent and realtor. Yeah. So yeah, I should probably relabel that.
There's no A in realtors.
What? Oh, I mean, hey, thanks for catching the time.
Pronounce it that way.
Yeah. Appreciate you catching that for me. Things that are not in RGA. Okay. A contract. Then you may be thinking, wait a second. How is a contract not an RGA? That's literally writing down and taking a check. Yeah, that's not new. If it's a contract, you've already been working with them for 3 to 5 weeks. That's not new. Okay. Follow-up. Once again, that's maintenance. That's not new business. Now, let me tell you what I'll see guys do wrong with follow-up all the time. Is they'll be like, all right, I'm going to follow up between 8 o'clock this morning. I hope to finish around 1. I don't care how friggin' busy you are, follow-up does not take that long. Okay. I averaged $100,000 a month, and my follow-up did not take more than 30 minutes. Like, just get in there and do the thing. The reason your follow-up takes so long is because you're trying to find another way to do it faster. Just do the dadgum thing. Like, so when I work on cars, something that I do, and it's just what I do, and even though I know this and use this analogy, I still do it. Like, I'll be turning and like the wrench barely has room to turn. So I spend like an hour trying to find a tool that will do it faster versus just doing that little, because I'm ADD and I don't like, it's like I want to turn more, so I literally am going in and out of that toolbox to the hood 1,000 times, and eventually I just got to end up going like, so just shut up and do it. Okay. The build is not revenue generating activities. Now, knocking on the build, that is, but handling the build, that's not revenue generating activity. Okay. Job submittal, cashing checks, update jobs, pipeline, like you may be thinking, but you just talked about knowing your pipe. Yeah, that's knowing about the work you've done. That's not generating new work. Making a phone call, like just, again, this is what I'm like, man, I got to call this homeowner and let them know that that color isn't available for 5 weeks. So if you wait for an hour, is it magically going to become available? Like, make the call. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. Stop being a kid. These are all maintenance items. They are not revenue generating. Generating be the key word. None of this is creating new. Okay? So, what's a good schedule look like? Now, like I told you guys, I'm a very regimented person. I went from doing one thing for 20 some years. I was like, I couldn't remember the last time I came across a question I didn't know. My schedule had been set for eons. Even though I had it written down, I had the thing memorized. To this thing, I couldn't figure out my schedule to save my dadgum life. Because here's the deal, I want to schedule out. You may make a sale today that's going to change what you got to do Friday. So you got to be able to adapt. So you got to have time blocking, meaning I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing follow-up. Don't know when, I'll move that around. Because when you get a sale, that means you're going to have an adjuster appointment, which you don't get to control what time that does or doesn't happen. Or when you offer a homeowner to sit down and go over with them, like if they're at work at 12 o'clock, so a lot of it is not in your control. And it was very, very difficult for me. Like, I just want to do the same thing every day. Like that's where I'm comfortable at. So this took me a minute to get. You guys could probably do it much quicker than I could. I have OCDs and problems that I really struggled with. Okay. So I'm going to give you some examples of what I personally did, and you can see how it goes. But some of the big things to know, like I said, no matter what, 40% of your time needs to be revenue generating activity. I don't care how busy you are. I do not care how busy you are. Not even one day. You'd be surprised what one day can do to you. Okay? So 6 a.m. And if you look here, wake up on time. Right? If you're a guy who hits a snooze button, stop hitting the daggum snooze button. There's all sorts of freaking stuff out there that tells you what a snooze button does to you. If you're a guy who hits a snooze button for 30 minutes, just wake up 30 minutes later. Like, seriously, stop it. If you set it for 5 o'clock and you know you're not waking up till 6, then just set it for 6. Like, stop it. Who you kidding? So I'm not even going to get into that anymore because I'll get on my soapbox. So this is what a schedule can look like if you're brand new, i.e. you guys, okay? This is where it's basically 100% RGAs, okay? So this is me specifically, 6 a.m., wake up. Now if you're like, hey, what are you doing between 6 a.m. and 6:15? Literally trying to stand, okay? I'm sitting in bed. That's as good as I've got. If you expect me to do something before then, sorry. And I don't care how bad I got to pee. I'm not old enough that I just have to rush out of bed yet. Like, I'm not there yet. So I can hold it in. That's part of what keeps me awake. All right. So 6:15 to 7:15. All right, I'm up and moving now. I've had the coffee. I'm gonna do my reading, getting into the Word. Okay. From 7:30 to 8:30, had a workout. Now, trust me, I don't work out an hour every day. I got to stretch. Stretching's part of my workout. I don't like it, but I can't just go ham and go right at it like I used to. All right, I got grays. Now, 8:30 to 9, it literally takes me exactly 30 minutes to get ready, shower, and all like that. I know what it takes me, and that's what I make it take. 9 to 11, educate. And this didn't change for quite some time. I spent 2 hours educating every day. Trust me, as simple as it is, there's a lot you don't know. And remember, part of educating can be if you know of a specific thing that you sucked at yesterday, figure that out. Like if there's a particular type of roof issue that you came across, like dig into it. YouTube University, man. You ever have a problem on your house? You're like, I don't know how to do this. YouTube it. Sure do. Like, if that was around when I was a kid, I'd probably be so stupid. Oh man. I remember when you actually just had to figure things out. Like, oh man, if YouTube and Google was available, I would be so stupid. All right. From 11 to 1, you're gonna go knock, right? Because like I said, I mean, if you want to go knock before 11, I mean you can, but the likelihood is you're kind of going to be wasting your time. And there's two things that suck at door knocking the most is just knocking doors and no one ever answering because no one's home, or the worst that I still to this day can't get over. If I knock on a door and like it's the screen door, but the door's open and I can see somebody home sitting in the living room, and they just pretend I'm not there. Oh, I literally can't get over. I would rather you open the door, spit on me, than to just pretend. Legit. Like I had a guy. He because it was a screen door situation, right? And he goes, "Go on, get," like I was a dog. I literally thought this old boy did not just say that to me. And then so I pretended like I didn't hear him, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't hear you." He said, "Go on, get." I literally walked off laughing. I'm like, this old boy literally told me to go on get. Like I'm a freaking chihuahua or something, right? Like, man, come on, dude. And he was in his underwear, by the way. And soup, yeah, in his underwear. Definitely should not be just in your underwear in public, but he was in his own home, so it's fine. That kind of build. But anyways, I would rather that happen than you just pretend I'm not there. I still can't get over that. But so 1 to 1:30, I'm going to eat / hydrate. Okay. Because I do have to remind myself to hydrate. That's a good point. Like, I haven't drank any water yet today. I would drink coffee all day long, man. So,
I haven't either.
What's that?
I haven't either.
I can see that, right? Yeah. So, I'm going to eat and hydrate. Whatever it is you got, you want to stop, you want to go eat. But again, I'm only giving myself 30 minutes. And I used to not actually give any time, but like, I'm the kind of guy like I don't like breaking because then I just never get going again. So, but on this, I'm like doing them hot days, like you got to take a fat minute. Like it'll not be good. Okay. From 1:30 to 2, I'll drive to a second neighborhood. Now here's something really, 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 really important to know. Noted, when I put drive to the other neighborhood, that was planned. Okay. What you don't do is say this isn't going well and you go to another neighborhood in between that 11 and 1. No, that's not what that like. Stay in it, suck it up. Bouncing around trying to find the greener grass, it doesn't work. It doesn't work, so don't do it. And I say that one of you is going to do it. Like one of you sometime this week are going to be like, I went to the neighborhood across the street. Why? Because of blah, blah, blah. All right. So when you went over, did it change? Not at all. So you just wasted some time, didn't you? Yes, I did. Like, just shut up and stay there. Now, the reason it's acceptable to go from one neighborhood to the next, well, because this is your daytime neighborhood. This is your nighttime neighborhood. They're going to be different places more than likely. Okay? So, and then after I get there from about 2 to 2:30, I'm going to read something, listen to something like again, you need to help improve yourself. If you improve yourself, you'll do better. Again, I can't make it make sense, guys. If you want me to, I can't. I'm sorry. Just trust me. Okay. And then from 2:30 to 7, knocking. Now, I'll be honest, from like 2 to 5, like it sucks. You're getting a lot of a lot of nothing doors, but like, what else you doing? And I'll make note on these, like, as I'm doing my street sheets, and you guys will see those here in a minute. If I'll be like, all right, come back at 5, right? So honestly, half of those 2 hours of a bad time to knock, I'm really almost just kind of making notes at what I need to know, what I need to come back to. Or you may knock on this door, come back when my husband gets home. I'm like, okay, come back when husband gets it, right? Um, so at 7, day's over, go home, spend time with the wife, 7 to 9. And like I said, just my own personal opinion, you need to schedule that time. And my thought was that it would come across as kind of like not heartful or not meaningful by scheduling. Like her thought or feeling would be, oh, you have to schedule spend time with me. You don't just want to, versus actually what I'm doing is I'm letting myself and the world know that this is what's most important to me. So it actually had the opposite effect of what I thought it would. So I always do it now. And then from 9 to 10, I have quiet time. That actually came from my wife. I'm the girl in the relationship. I'll be honest. I'm like, I want to cuddle. And she's like, no, I need my quiet. And now it's like, no, I have to have it. Now there'll be sometimes she's like, can we just stay and watch another episode? No, I need my alone time that you built into me, right? And do whatever you want to do in that alone time. Whether you're just staring off into the abyss, reading, whatever. And then 10 to 10:15, I'm recapping or adapting tomorrow's business. Okay. Or I'll figure out what neighborhood I need to go in. So if you wake up, if you don't already know where you're knocking in neighborhood 1 and neighborhood 2, when you wake up that day, guess what happens? You won't even do it. You won't even do it. Or you'll drive and be like, this is a bad one. Then you'll go to the next. Like, just trust me. You need to have it done the day before.
If we do re-inspections, if we do,
Mm-hmm.
we're rolling pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But find nothing, move to another neighborhood.
That is your only excuse.
Okay.
Yep. Or if you get the cops called on you, that would be a fairly good excuse too. I've actually never had the cops called on me. I've had a handful of guys that have, and have had cops show up and so on. So I've never had the cops called on me. I guess I'm just not threatening. What's that? Because you got Karens. Because you got Karens. Do you know what Karens are?
No.
Oh.
Creepy old guy walking around the neighborhood and she's all up in your business.
Karens are just the mean ladies.
Karen.
Yeah, Karens are just like, oh yeah, no, Karen. They're just the mean ladies that like to just be mean. So, and because legitimately, technically speaking, you're not soliciting. You're offering a free service. You're offering a free inspection. So you're literally, now, I'm not telling you to, if a homeowner goes, it says no soliciting. Well, actually, sir, if you look up Josh actually tells the story when he was just having a really bad day and he just really wanted to have that argument. And he goes, well, actually, if you just kind of look here, what he's like, so technically anyways, you don't win that argument. So just, okay, whatever, walk away. But like if a cop comes, you might, well, actually, technically speaking, and the cop's going to go, just go to another neighborhood. Like cops don't care. Like, trust me, they'd be rather dealing with other things. So now you're doing a little bit better, right? Okay. You're into maybe 1 or 2 builds a week, or 1 or 2 authorizations a week. Nonetheless, you're like, you got some mojo about you. Now, right off the bat, what's something you notice?
Follow-up.
There you go. Little bit less specific. Lincoln, you notice anything different in 2 schedules?
Less RGA.
That was earlier.
It's a lot more time locked.
Getting up earlier. So guess what? Kind of like we talked about earlier. You start seeing some success. You got to be a different person, right? So the guys who hit that one barrier and they're like, I'm just comfortable with making this much money. That's they're like, I don't want to spend another hour. I'm like, all I got to do is wake up a little bit earlier and I get to make more money. Cool. So I went from waking up at 6 to waking up at 5. Now, I'm not going to wake up earlier than 5. That's kind of my limit. I'll take that back. I was up at 4:30 today, so maybe that's a lie. So I woke up earlier. And then, yes, there's a lot more work on here in general, okay? So, and there's a couple key things I want to talk about. So my morning stuff, as you can see, it's the same time frames. It's just different times, okay? Same thing. I still 30 minutes to get ready, but it's way earlier in the day. My education's a little bit different. I'm not spending 2 hours educating. I kind of got this down. However, I'm still spending 30 minutes a day educating and or discovering yesterday's problems. I still spend time educating every single day. Still do that. Okay. And the education, generally speaking, is going to be involved with work, but maybe you just need to do something better personally. Again, personal development legitimately helps you out in this. So I'm going to encourage, go on, do it. Okay. So then from 8:39, I do follow-ups, but then you look, what do you notice about this time block right here? It is stacked up. Like it is stacked up. To be honest, I need my 9, 10, and 11 to all go really well. Okay. If it cuts into my door knocking, not so bad. But that adjuster appointment could go into that office lead real quick, which is again why I talk about you need to get there 50. Like you need to do everything you can to make it not happen. But understand that's going to happen. Wait till you see the next schedule. Like there's going to be some things like you don't have a minute of wiggle room. And that was something that was really, really hard for me. I have to have wiggle room. Like I have to, like, I'm like, hey, I need time in case traffic's, but like I'm a little Boy Scout, man. Like I got to be prepared for everything. That was very, very, very hard for me to adapt to. Okay. So you'll notice now I got an office lead because I've earned a couple, right? But now what do I do after my office lead? Well, I'm going to knock around where my office lead is. I just already have that planned. I'm not going to go try to find another neighborhood. I'm already here. And it's a perfect warm knock. I can be like, hey, so I just got done talking to Nathan over on his roof, and turns out I found X, Y, and Z. It's what we call a warm knock. Okay. A cold knock is you know nothing about the neighborhood. You're starting from scratch. You're hoping to find something. Well, you already got something. And like I said, stories sell. Okay. So you're telling a story. So I'm still going to do my knock. Then I'm going to do my chill out. And you notice now my eating and reading and something that like that's all in one. It's all in one time block now. Rather than bringing 2 time blocks, that's in 1 time block. So I'm doing a lot more in that 30 minutes. Okay. Then I'm going to finish my follow-ups because up here, sometimes I know I got a homeowner that I really shouldn't be calling that early in the morning. They don't want to hear it, right? Most of your younger guys don't want to be talked to that early in the morning. So I'm going to finish those follow-ups here. Or maybe there are some phone calls I had to make to insurance companies and I, couldn't get through. So I'm going to take care of more follow-ups at this time. And it says finish. It doesn't say try to or hopefully or it says I will finish my follow-ups. Now, mind you, if I start them at 1:30 and I'm finished by 2, well, then I just start knocking sooner. Okay? But as you can see, then it finishes up the same. Still going to knock, and then, spending time with wife, eating, recapping, that hadn't changed. Now look what happens. Okay? You're making $10K a month. Now, to be honest with you, this is a little bit old. Back when I started, this was not making $10K a month. This is honestly $10K a month now because of the cost of roofs have gone up enough. But for me, I didn't get, so for you guys, this would really be more like probably $15K a month schedule, to be honest, with nowadays money. So good for you guys. But this is where I was. So if you look, waking up same time, working out same time, getting ready for work same time, education. Look, I'm making 10 grand a month and I'm still educating because I want to make more, right? I'm not going to wait till I'm the person making more. I'm going to be the person making more. Okay. Now, right here, adjuster appointment 8:30 to 9:30, but then another appointment at 9. How's that work? You hope it all works. Generally speaking, if you got an 8:30 adjuster appointment, that's probably your first one. He's probably super going to be on time, and you can probably make it work. If you were to put this down at the end of the day, yeah, that's definitely not going to work. That guy's definitely not going to be running super on time. But if it's that early in the morning, it's probably okay to stack them up. Okay. And then you notice after your adjuster appointment, both of them. You got an office lead, then you're going to knock around that lead for only 30 minutes. You're like, only 30 minutes? Yeah, because now I have another scheduled inspection from a referral that I got. And then I'm going to knock around some of those doors around that one while I'm waiting. Then I'm going to eat and listen to something for a real quick minute. Then I'm going to do my follow-ups because I've barely done any follow-ups at this point. Then I got another referral inspection to do, and then another referral inspection. Then I'm going to knock for a quick second. Then I got 2 contracts to write. Then I'm going to go home, spend time with my wife, have quiet time, and then recap. So that is, again, that's you're looking at what my actual schedules were for those time periods.
So if you've got an adjuster appointment at 8:30 and then the next one comes in for 9 somewhere else, so it's not going to work. I mean, do you reach out to the adjuster and try and reschedule that, or what do you do?
Yeah. So here's the deal. By this time here, if you're making, you're making that kind of money, you're selling a lot of roofs. You've seen a lot of these adjusters. You got their numbers. They know you. You're you're calling ahead of time. You may even talk to them the day before. Hey, I got one, right before you, just down the road or something of that nature. You guys are communicating with one another. At this time, you've probably helped them. So like in this case right here, you almost always have the same guys that schedule your early appointments, and you've probably showed up early for them one day. So don't be afraid of it. That's why when those homeowners call you, you want them to have the adjuster's name. Now, a lot of times they're not going to, but once you start getting busy, you're going to want to find out who the adjuster is, and you're going to want to get in contact with that adjuster. A lot of times I'll shoot out a message. I'll go, hey, Lincoln's Marcus First Priority. You and I are meeting on this and this day at this and this time with such and such. Hey, leads, right? So to get your leads, and we'll kind of get into the weeds on this here in a little bit, but you have to maintain top 50% in your state, city, area, whatever it qualifies for, right? You have to be in the top 50% of your area, and you have to maintain a 25% close rate, because we have to pay for leads. So if I'm paying for it, I have to give it to somebody who's going to close it. And somebody's going to close it is not somebody who isn't in the top 50 or doesn't maintain a closing percentage of 25 or better. Anything else?
Close 25% of what? Because we measured
Of your leads.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. So not who cares what your door knocking is?
Yeah.
It's the leads that
Yep.
we've given you in the past. Are you closing them?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So quick recap. What is the most important thing when doing your schedule?
RJ.
There you go. At least you looked up and cheated. You didn't pay attention and retain anything, but you looked up and cheated. I'll take it. So next is your time blocking. And again, I say time blocking, not specific times. Again, that was just my particular issue. Like I was, kind of like today, I was like, hey, you guys want to do an early lunch or a late lunch? Like, we're going to do a lunch. How do you want to do it? Right? So how much time does the thing actually take? And I put problem because that thing is almost always a problem. Like, you don't have a time hurrying up and setting an inspection. Trust me, I never have someone waiting too long to set an inspection. You do that real quick. But making a phone call, they doing all these things. Our top 10% guarantee, if you say, hey, what's your schedule look like today? They can tell you. If you look at our bottom, don't even have anything. Okay. So next thing, and it's a good one to note, just in the general world of selling. I guess I'm making the assumption. You guys good to keep hammering for a minute? Okay. All right. So something you need to be doing that a good salesperson does is ask questions. By nature, we think that the person doing all the talking is a person that's in control. That's actually not the case. The person asking the questions is the person that's in control. And depending on how good your questions are, will depend on how big your money is. The better questions you ask, preferably open-ended, the more information you're going to get from a homeowner, which will help you help them more. The day that you all of a sudden, because I can remember the day, I had to call up Josh and I'm like, this dude is a total stranger, and just started crying about this particular. I'm like, I remember thinking in the moment, why is this guy telling a total stranger? You should not, I would not. He said, and they clearly trust you. I'm like, oh, I guess that's a good thing. And then more and more as I got better and better, million things, man. You're like, why are you telling me this? Like, I've had some people tell me some things, man. That's a good thing. It's because you're asking questions. If you're asking good questions, you're really getting to know how to help them. Okay. So, what I tell everybody, and this will continually change, you need to have 10 go to questions written down at all times that you can always ask. Okay. And that question may be, hey, where'd you get that shirt? Like, if you catch yourself stumped, what are the questions? And that's just throughout the entire process. And, like one of the ones that I always ask, especially like if they're new to the area, where'd you move from? Or do you know how old your roof is? Like, I want to ask questions that hopefully lead me to, information about the roof. But I would write down 10 go-to questions. Okay. And you'll find out the questions, if you actually do this, you'll find out the questions you have now are going to be different than what you have 2 weeks from now versus 2 years from now. But start with it. That way you're always moving and adapting, and have those 10 memorized. That way when you get stumped, because you'll get stumped, you at least got something to fire off, right? Or better when your wife's like, why did you do that? Ugh, I'm stupid. Like, I wasn't thinking, right? So, the thing to know is get people talking about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. Like, people that like to talk, you think they just like to talk. No, they actually like to talk about themselves. They don't want to talk about your story. They want to talk about their story, which is fine. We want them talking about themselves. Find the issues. Find the reasons they will or won't buy. So what's a killer question that I heard a long time ago, because those who don't steal aren't trying hard enough, is, let's say you got some competition or it's a lead. They're asking for other quotes. I'd be like, let me ask you a question if you don't mind. When picking a contractor, what's most important to you? You'd be surprised. They will tell you. And then when they tell you, it's a thing, and all you have to do is address that thing. And you want to ask the questions that prove the pro that you are. You want to ask the questions that lead to the things you want to talk about. Okay? Now, a lot of people, how many of you know that being a salesperson, if you're being a professional, you're actually a leader? You're a leader. If you take any good, like, think of your favorite head coach in whatever sport, they could go sell a lot of anything they went into. They really could, because good coaches are leaders. And if you're a leader, you can be a salesperson. Okay? So, if you don't lead the homeowner, they're going to lead themselves. And they're going to make a lot of assumptions. So, kind of like an assumption when I asked you guys yesterday, how many pictures do you think you need to take? None of you were even within a 10% realm, right? Your homeowners are going to take all the same assumptions. So if you don't lead them, they're going to take their assumptions are never in your favor, and they're always in the insurance company favor. Ask me how I know. Like, I remember used to thinking by myself when I get, when they went to somebody else or told me no or whatever, I'm like, why do they think insurance is the good guy? Like, I remember used to ask them, and like, as I got better, I'm like, oh, it's because I didn't let them make them. Yeah, it's just, even though all they've been doing is paying them, to them, that's a relationship. They've seen State Farm's name more than they've seen yours. Okay. So, good questions. Told you to write a couple, and I already gave you one of them. But here's some good questions to have.
I don't ever take your picture. I zoom in.
Oh, no, you're good. Yeah, you're good. I just have to walk around a lot. When picking a contractor, what's most important to you? Next question to ask, do you have any questions? Okay. And I know we kind of talked about this earlier, but like when you see that look on their face of they definitely have some questions, you need to get what those dadgum questions are out of their head. Like you got to get it out of them. Okay. Another question of the same thing. Does that make sense? You guys have probably heard me ask that a bunch of times. Okay. Or here's a cool one. When we do the roof, is there anything you'd like to change, like the color? And once again, good questions have assumptive statements in them. When I'm doing this already, so good questions are almost kind of statements. Another cool one as you get better, like you'll see this one here. What happened here? Was it this? So like if someone's missing drip or someone doesn't have drip edge and they have rotten fascia, or if there's a patch over their fascia, you can be like, what happened here? Did that rot out? That makes sense. Like when you kind of diagnose something without them ever having even talked to you about it, it shows what a professional you are. When you're like, hey, I bet your problem was this or this, you're like, how do you know that? Or a last one, and this is kind of like a moneymaker for now and moneymaker for later. Do you know who your agent is? And do you like them? Because as we'll get to, and you guys will see in the road to six figures, when you ask them if they know who their agent is and they actually know their agent, that's a shocker. Most people don't know their agent. Most people. And if they do, their opinion about them is probably indifferent. So it only goes one or two ways. If they know who their agent is and they like their agent, fantastic. I want his information because I want to talk to that guy. Because that means his other homeowners probably like him. And if his homeowners like him, they make phone calls to him, which means he will give me a referral. And if they don't know their agent or they don't like their agent or they're indifferent to their agent, then I'm going to offer them an agent friend of mine. And they will become a referral. Because all agents want from you is the same thing you want from agents. Referrals. You go into an agent office and offer a referral, trust me, you're the only roofer doing it. You will immediately become his roofer. And if you have a referral to get him, like from Jerry's house, because he didn't know his agent, and you're like, hey, Jerry, if I sent you an agent who I know and trust, would you be willing to see if he can save you some money? Sure. Cool. I just got a referral. Now, that if old Tim doesn't close it, that ain't my problem. Like, I gave you the referral. Closing it's your job. That ain't my job. And I don't get anything from it. Like, it's illegal for me to take money to and from the agent and vice versa. All right. So, does anybody have any questions on questions? Nope. Okay. Let's take a quick 5. We'll come back and then we'll hammer out the last hour and a half. See how we're doing on canvassing. Oops, that's the wrong thing. Man, I don't think you can be worse at technology than I am.
I bet you could. I'll give you a run for your money.